What's up, guys? Welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to subscribe for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. A woman stole a bag of cans out of my truck. I was out yesterday running errands, and I had a really big transparent bag of cans I was going to take to the bottle drop in the bed of the truck. I stopped to get lunch first, and when I came back out to my truck, the bag of cans was gone. So I drove towards the bottle drop, and sure enough, I saw a woman heading that way and lugging my bag of cans on the sidewalk. I pulled over, and she clearly recognized my truck. I accused her of stealing the cans from my truck. She denied it until I said I was going to call the police, and the restaurant I was at likely caught her theft with their CCTV. So she could either admit she stole from me and return the cans, or I would call the cops. She got angry and told me money was tight right now, and it was just a bag of cans. I told her she didn't get to steal from me and play the victim, so it was either return the bag or I would call the cops. She tried to say the cops wouldn't give a damn about a bag of cans, so I told her we should find out. I was about to start dialing when she dropped the bag, then told me to go F myself. She walked away ranting and saying I have no sympathy. I told my friends about this later, and one of their girlfriends absolutely went off on me. She went on a rant about how I didn't know what kind of situation that woman might have been in, and she could have been homeless for all I knew, so I should have just let her have the damn cans. We had a big argument and she left, furious. I was pretty sure I was in the right before, but not anymore. For the record, the bag had over $30 worth of cans in it. It was a really big bag. It was a huge transparent bag made for covering a mattress, so a lot of cans. I can almost guarantee you that anyone saying that OP is a jerk for wanting the cans back would probably also think that it wouldn't be okay if this person instead stole $30 out of OP's wallet. It's the same thing, the cans had value and she stole it from OP, and it sounds like she was on the way to the place to exchange it for money when OP intercepted her. It's easy to pass judgment when hearing about it from someone else, but I bet if that person giving OP a hard time about this ever has something of value stolen from her, she wouldn't be thinking, oh, well, they were probably in a hard spot. Apparently, I don't respect the hospitality industry because I refuse to be scammed. This morning, my girlfriend and I stopped by a local Mexican food truck to grab breakfast burritos. It's a spot we frequent, your typical walk-up, order-and-go place. While the food is great, it's on the pricier side, usually $30 to $40 for 2 people. Nonetheless, we still make it a weekly spot. When it came time to pay, I handed over my card as usual. This time though, something unusual happened. After she ran my card inside the truck, she handed the screen to me. The receipt screen popped up. At first, I thought, oh nice, they skipped the part where they make you choose a tip up front. But then I noticed the receipt already included a 20% tip, which I definitely didn't authorize. I confronted the woman at the window and she flat out denied adding the tip. After I insisted, she reluctantly gave me cash from the tip jar as a refund and sent me on my way. Normally, I might let something like this slide, but I wasn't in the mood to be scammed this morning. For context, the truck had a sign posted that read, "You, our clients, are the most important thing to us. Therefore, our staff always have to give you the best service. If you receive poor service from our staff, please do not hesitate to let us know, and we, the owners, will make improvements for you." I decided to give the owner a call to let them know what was happening. To his credit, he was very apologetic and handled the situation well. No complaints about how he dealt with it. Now for the fun part. While I was on the phone with the owner, a college-aged guy, said he was 22, approached me and tried to talk to me. I didn't catch what he said at first, just gave a polite nod and kept focusing on my call. When I got off the phone, I asked him what he wanted. Turns out he had a lot to say. He accused me of not respecting the hospitality industry and said, "A 22-year-old kid knows more about the hospitality industry and respect than you do." Then he called me a clown and announced he was going to pay my tip for me. Spoiler, he didn't. We exchanged a few words, but eventually we both walked away. I went home, enjoyed my burrito, probably with an extra ingredient or two, and then reflected on how absurd the whole situation was. This tipping culture is getting out of hand, and the boldness of vendors adding tips without giving customers a say is even crazier. It's a good thing OP actually reported this to the owner of that business, because if this worker did this to one person, it's probably very likely that they've done it to others too. The worker is lucky that OP reported it to the owner instead of the police. Adding unauthorized tips is obviously a criminal offense. And it seems that worker just clicks through the credit card prompts themselves and adds the tip manually, the prompts that the cardholder is probably the one that's supposed to go through, before just showing them the end screen and hoping that no one notices. The time my mother-in-law tried to steal my farm. I live in a very rural area on a small ranch that has been with my family since my grandfather. We are about 15 minutes from the nearest small town. When I say small, I really mean small. I met my wife by chance about 6 years ago when I stopped in town to pick up some groceries. She gave off a very tomboy vibe and she just came to the area herself. She had just finished school and found that she hated city life and wanted to come back to something more familiar. I'll get to that later. I guess she saw me pull in with my pickup and some of the heavier equipment in it, and she came over and asked what sort of livestock I had. She quickly cut to the chase. She was looking for work, she had experience with livestock, and she was new to the area. It is strange in our area to have single women looking for work as a ranch hand, but she said she could prove her worth, and if I wasn't impressed, I was free to drive her back to town at the bus stop and that'd be that. I was looking for an extra hand for the upcoming months and was considering contacting my neighbor's boys for it, but figured I'd give her a shot. Glad I did, too. She has one hell of a work ethic, and was proactive about everything on the ranch. I let her stay in a guest room in the main house for the first week, until she had enough pay for an apartment, but within 6 months she moved back in when we started dating. 8 months later was when we married in a small ceremony with about 20 friends and family members. The only person to show up from her family was her uncle. Her uncle was a tank of a man even in his older years, and had a sheep farm in Northern California. There was, however, one topic that my wife did not like to discuss. It was her birth parents. At first, all she would say was there was bad blood between them. Early on, that was fine. We didn't know each other yet. But after the engagement, I wanted to know more about her and know what exactly I was diving into. Her mother, the professor, worked in a college teaching a class I most likely would never attend. And for clarity, OP is going to refer to her as the professor from here on out for some reason. So just keep in mind that the quote, professor is OP's mother-in-law. Her father-in-law, was as wife described, a weak man that does what the professor demands. Some of the things my wife described the professor in doing sounded absurd and borderline insane. It included her trying to get my wife a girlfriend in middle school, insisting my wife was a lesbian. Now, my wife is a bit of a tomboy, there's no denying that, but she is also most definitely not a lesbian. There was a period where the professor wanted to live a natural lifestyle, and she asked father-in-law's brother to let them live on his farm. Within a week, the professor hated the farm and dragged them both back to the city. My wife, on the other hand, felt like she finally found something she liked and really connected with her uncle. My wife left home when she was 16 and lived with her uncle until she was 18. All while she was with her uncle, the professor kept threatening to drag her back. She never did. After my wife turned 18, she went to school and received a 4-year degree, and tried to work an office job but found it unfulfilling. She started to take the bus and work odd jobs in rural areas, looking for something that fit what she was looking for. That was when our paths crossed. Last year around March, we started getting mail addressed to the professor and father-in-law, bills and bank statements and such. I found this strange, and wife wanted to trash it. I started marking them return to sender and no such occupant and dropped them right back into the mailbox. This came to a head in October when I was cleaning up the yard and a bright white SUV drove up. Wife looked up and turned pale. "Oh God, it's them," she said. Out stepped a rotund woman and a thin man that only had a passing resemblance to uncle. The professor immediately walked up to my wife. "Well, let me have a look at you, it's been years," she said. "Mom, what are you doing here?" said my wife. "The university is doing virtual classes, and we figured we can stay at our ranch." The "our" had a weird emphasis. And I say, "Excuse me, but this isn't your ranch." "Oh, I'm sure we can have the ownership all cleared up." "Well, aren't you going to invite us in?" "Ma'am, you may be my wife's mother, but you are a stranger to me. I would rather not." Father-in-law got on the phone with the police and started spinning a tale about us not letting them into the house that they equally own with us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and how insane it was being spun. Luckily, as I said before, small town. The sheriff pulled up and it was someone I knew for most of my life. The sheriff really embodies the mindset of a small town constable. He tries to be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper first and foremost. He also knew that this land was in my family's name for 3 generations. "What's this I hear about you selling half your ranch?" said the sheriff. "I didn't. These are my wife's parents, and they think they have a legal stake on my land." "We've lived here since February," said the professor. "Funny, I don't remember you in town," said the sheriff. That shut the professor right up for a second, but then she reached in her bag and pulled out a stack of letters, a lot of them the bills and bank statements with the ranch's address. "Then how do you explain these?" she said. The sheriff took the letters and looked at them. "Ma'am, these are all marked return to sender." The professor turned desperate. "Please, I haven't seen my daughter in years. I just want to make sure she's okay." The sheriff rolled his eyes and walked over to talk to me and my wife. Again, the sheriff likes to solve problems between people, and he hasn't encountered this level of crazy before. "You might just want to invite them in for coffee. Talk for a few minutes. They are your parents. Look, I'm just going to head up the road. Invite them in, talk to them." My wife got a bit of an angry glint in her eye. "Does this mean you're going to invite your cousin Aaron to Thanksgiving?" The sheriff's cousin, Aaron, was currently serving 8 years for a multitude of felonies. The sheriff's entire family consider him the family's shame. With that statement, the look in the sheriff's eyes changed. He gave my wife a look like, "That bad, huh?" And my wife nodded. The sheriff turned back to the professor and father-in-law. "All right, they don't want you here. Best you two not come back." The two protested briefly, but then piled back into the SUV and drove off, with the sheriff trailing right behind to make sure that they were completely off the property. This was the first time I met the professor and father-in-law, but it definitely stuck with me. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. As always, if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe for more. So I'm out of here, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.